Hello, we are live. Welcome to another YouTube Live here. We are going to be talking about the cryptocurrency market and the different alts, as well as BTC in this video. We've seen quite a bit of buy pressure come into the market. We are positioned pretty well. We have multiple positions on multiple alts, as well as a pretty awesome entry on BTC, which we will discuss within the video. So quickly just discussing the trade management. Before we get into every single alt, this will be more of a diving deep into it because they have moved significantly. Some of the different alts within the market, like we see Link, have not really made that move like some of the alts we're in. Like Litecoin's made a pretty big move. Ethereum's made a pretty big move, but for example, Link has not really seen a significant move. So this could be a nice sympathy play. I'm just unzipping my jacket here. So it could be a nice sympathy play that we could have for Link here. So we'll discuss that within the video. But first, let's go over BTC. All right, so we had that green zone that represented our key zone of support. And we also had an area within the chart. Give me one moment here. All right, perfect. Sorry, I had to deal with some stuff on another monitor. So let's actually break down that entry first before getting further into the video, because we've already discussed the larger time frames so much, and we haven't really discussed the entry because we said we entered, but we didn't really kind of explain exactly why per se. So initially, we were looking for the price to make a higher high than this one here, because this is a previous resistance as well as a previous support in the previous price action right around there. So we know it's a zone of sensitivity within the chart. So what we need to do is we need to first draw that in, so we have that zone, and we also need to break the descending zone that we connected the lower highs with, that is creating the lower highs. So we're getting a squeeze in price, right? So we know that this green area is a major area of demand. We know this for not a fact, but there's a high probability that this will have a lot of buy pressure within that zone. So we're getting a squeeze in price. We initially break this zone as a nice fresh breakout, but initially, right there and then, we're looking to see more buy pressure, and we don't really see that. We don't really see a whole lot of buy pressure. Yeah, we do see more buy pressure than sell pressure, which is great to see, but not as much as you would like. So the price did fall back down, making two falls. Now, initially at this zone right here, we did take some longs and we got taken out, but that was not a problem because we knew we were still looking for longs. We had our bias and we stuck to it. And then when the price held the support for a second time and then basically started seeing significant buy volume come into the market, basically instantly, you really see that the volume is coming in a lot more than what we saw back here. So there's the difference. You see more buyers enter the market. You see more pressure keeping the price up, really moving it. And then once we saw this bullish candle close there, that's when I decided to put my position in. Initially, my stop loss was, I believe, below the recent low, so it'd be right there. Moved it up a little bit. I definitely will, I think, move it up to this point here. But the fact that we broke this next descending zone, as well as this horizontal zone right here, is going to be a major player, which is just over the 10K zone. So the fact that we made a new high from this point here, for me, does signal that we could see another solid move towards the upside. And we're seeing some very strong buy volume coming into the market. So I am remaining bullish, and we were bullish since the $7,800 break. So basically since this first 2 weeks of January, we were definitely calling for longs, not really looking for shorts too much, looking for the long side, and that's what we've been trading, and it's been doing pretty well thus far in 2020. So that is BTC. Not a whole lot more to talk about. I will just put a trend line in here that we discussed, which is going to be right around here. So that's the recent high. So we've kind of broken all the recent highs. So we could be potentially making a higher low, which I wouldn't mind at all. I'm just going to lower that a little bit because let's just talk about market structure on the 1 hour time frame. Also, for people within the chats, we have 3 people watching. If you have a question, don't be shy, and I'll be able to assist you if it's relevant. So we got our descending zone, which is our current level of resistance that we broke, which is going to create our first level of resistance. We also have a previous level of support here, previous level of support, new level of resistance, making it a valid area within the chart. It could be a little wider. It could incorporate this area here if we wanted to. So yeah, you could debate that it's not completely out of the zone, it's not out of the woods, but for the most part, it has broken its first key zone, which is a support within this consolidation phase, and it has went above the low of this zone here. Might not be up to the body of the candles for the most part, but we do see that there is bullish pressure, pushing the price, breaking resistances, holding supports, and this area right here is for me going to be the potential support, the higher low that we could see before making the next move to the upside. Why do I think that's the zone? Well, it's our zone of confluence. Initially, we got the horizontal zone and we got the descending zone, creating an area where they intersect, creating a zone of confluence where we could have a higher dependability for the buyers to be located. So, got to be pretty patient. You got to be willing to see that consolidation down and be able to patiently wait until a potential move towards the upside. It doesn't make sense, in my opinion, to sell at this point. Just obviously my personal view. Maybe some take profits at the highs here wouldn't be a bad idea. Maybe like whatever amount of percentage you're looking for, but I wouldn't say the whole thing because I do think that for me, in the end, I think my take profit is going to be probably at the next level next key level of supply. I'm going to start it at 11K, but I think it'll go to 11.5 to 12K. I think that's where the next key level of resistance is going to be. I started it at 11K, so my initial take profit is going to be at like risk reward of 3, which is really solid. And then as we get deeper into the resistance zone, we'll probably be taking significant profits around that area. So we'll see how the price action goes. Overall, on the 4 hour, we do see that we're getting still significant volume accumulation. We see significantly higher green bars than we do red bars, showing that the buy pressure is higher. The major key smart money, you could call, big buyers are purchasing and holding the coin rather than selling it and distributing it into the market, which is very, very bullish. And we've been breaking resistances, holding support, seeing nice clear higher highs and higher lows. Not a whole lot more to talk about the price action. It's been very clear for us in terms of the movement towards the upside. We're very, very happy with the current situation of the markets. And the minimum, I think we'll at least test the 10.5 range, but ideally we'd make that nice fresh new high to kind of finish off that strong move to the upside to kind of really get the last oomph, I guess, out of the trend. And then we might start to see some consolidation around this zone here because on the monthly and on the weekly, it does look a little bit more like we could consolidate a little bit further if we just put our trend lines. So we're basically at this point here, and we could come up to maybe 11.4, but I think 11.5 to 12K is when I might be looking to kind of take a minute out of the markets and really assess the situation, because we do have quite a bit of resistance at this zone. And then also taking a look at the weekly, we can see the zone a lot more clear. We see this 11K is the start of it, but like I said before, 11.5 to 12K is kind of where I'm looking to take a lot of profits here, and then we'll maybe see a consolidation. I don't exactly know, but I can always enter back in the markets. There's always going to be consolidation patterns in the markets. You know, like, yeah, the price might move 10, 20% or whatever, but if I'm looking at 15 different alts, there's bound to be at least one pair that has a consolidation pattern that I have an edge in, that I'm able to trade. So if you look at it that way, it's not as much FOMO as you think. So We just broke and retested this level of support right here, which is our first level of confluence. And then we have our next one that we just talked about, 11.5 to 12K. And I think that we could just get that nice gap from zone to zone. That would be ideal. And on this 4-hour chart, it does look like it's a pretty possible situation for us to find ourselves in. Looking at risk rewards of 3-4-ish, I think would be pretty good if we're averaging around like 13% if we get some high ones here, but if we're taking profits kind of a little bit earlier, just want to see what the risk reward is at this point here. 1.7, I don't love that. I like having a risk reward of a little bit over 2 over 1, or at least 2 for a minimum of a risk reward, but looking pretty good. We'll discuss the different alts within the market now. So that is the market sentiment. Let's actually also look at the buyers and sellers within the market. You're probably going to assume, or I'm probably going to assume, that there is as a hesitation in the sellers, which there is, and the buyers are coming back into the market. We can see that right here. The buyers are picking the longs back up, kind of at this previous level of support. So we could be in a channel here. So this is actually a good indication, because theoretically, just looking at this, if we do get halted back around that resistance, we could be taking some profits around this high here just to ensure that we are capturing profits. Move that stop loss to break even, maybe a little bit below, but overall we're still making money in this trade. And I think that's a good way to play this situation. And then looking at the short side, we do see that there's a hesitation. We tried to make a higher high, but got rejected from making a higher high. So we know that the sellers are losing confidence, because this was an attempt to make a higher high, and it hasn't really made a higher high yet. And the bulls are really pushing the price up at this point, so I don't really see a possibility for the sellers to increase it. So we got a nice resistance here that the price is holding below, making highs. So if we do get a strong push of volume coming in, we have seen an increase in short sellers coming in the market, so we could have a little bit of a short squeeze if we do see the price of BTC increasing significantly to some degree. You will see the price jump pretty high to the upside, aggressively moving, really shooting up, in my opinion, because we have seen more sellers come into the market. They are making higher highs and higher lows. They are speculating that the price has gone too high up. It's going to reverse. It's going to go down, and they have to get out, and they have to pay. They have to buy the coin to get out. And at this point, it's at a near high. We can see there's many highs of the short side confidence, and like we've seen in a fall like this, this is when the market really shifts, because when there's no sell pressure, when there's no sell confidence, it's easy for the buyers to bid up the price, and that's where you get pretty significant shifts in supply and demand. So that's the analysis there. So that's BTC. We will now cover the different alts within the market. Our chart looks really good. So let's cover the first one. We are in Litecoin, and we talked about it within right here. Just give me one more second here. I'm just making sure I see it. There we go. So within the swing trade alerts, I also entered on ETC to get long, and then here's that I've added a position on BTC with a stop loss below previous low. And I do make a video here. And we also entered on Ethereum on the 1 hour chart here as well, which we'll get into. We did pretty well on that so far. We're still in it. But we make a video every single day. Like our recent video was right here, crypto market analysis. And we cover every single day the trades we're in. So you have a video analysis of why we entered, when we entered, what signals we got for entering, and all this stuff, which give you a breakdown of exactly our system we use, why we enter it, and really gives you a good understanding of each entry and each real action taken in the markets, which is a pretty important and pretty useful thing that you could be using. So let's talk about Litecoin. Going back to the 4 hour and then moving forward. Actually, let's just go all the way back to the daily and even just take all the stuff off the charts and discuss what we're able to identify in terms of the market structure, in terms of the volume, in terms of what we're able to identify. So definitely clear higher highs and higher lows. Also, very easy thing to identify is we're seeing increasing volume come into the market. We're seeing increasing volume come into the market, and also the fact that we see more buy volume come into the market than sell volume, indicating volume accumulation. This is great for us. This means that the major buyers, or smart money, what you call, is in the money, purchasing coins and holding them instead of distributing it into the market, which is great to see. We are breaking resistances, holding supports. So overall, we do see that the market structure looks solid. Why did we enter here? Well, the first thing I did see is we are holding a zone right here. So this zone right here is this zone right here, is this zone right here. So kind of this area right around here. Trying to draw it. So this zone is going to be our key level of support within the chart. It could be a wider area like so, incorporating this, so it's that wider area, but overall that is a major support that we broke through. And then what we wanted to see after breaking through it is a retest. If this was a major zone, if we're breaking above it, we're wanting to see that validation of a previous level of resistance turn into a new level of support. And once we see that validation that there's buyers within the market here, then we look to enter long, and that's exactly what our system is. And we basically do the exact same thing every single time. So now that we know, yes, there are buyers here, there have been buyers in the previous historic price action that indicate, yes, this is a zone of sensitivity that we have used in the past. So now that we've identified that zone, we can now jump into the smaller time frame. But first, so that's the zone. It's $76 to $67-ish. And then we have another zone connecting the high here, which is around $78, and we have another high around $90. And then we just bounced from low, and then now it looks like we are breaking the mid-range zone and then coming back up. So now let's look at the 4-hour chart. So we were making nice strong higher highs and higher lows, and then we broke to make a lower low. So this was the recent low, and then the price made a lower low. I'm just going to get some water here. And we have been seeing strong buy volume come into the market, which is great. And this could be the higher low. One thing to keep in mind, I do want to leave a little bit of room in my stop loss. I don't want to put it too tight too soon. We have limited risk on multiple trades that we are in, but I don't think I'm going to raise my stop loss on this one just yet. We do have a chance of potentially pulling back. These two white lines indicate zones of sensitivity, so we could have just one big seller come in, and then we could have a pretty big spike down with a little wick, and then come back up and test these highs here. So I do want to give the price a little bit of room to breathe. So why did we enter here? Well, the main thing is we did see significant volume come in. The unfortunate thing, I guess you could say, which we have been having to do more of, is only waiting for one confirmation to come into the market, like we see here. So normally, we'd ideally like to see 2 injections of buy volume before seeing the entry come in and come through, and then we'd look to long. But recently we have been looking just for one confirmation like we see here. But in this circumstance, because it was a not just a injection confirmation right here, but we also see the fact that we broke a descending zone, which is this guy right here. We broke that. It's very, very well respected. We see 4 touches, which is a dependable zone. Just gonna get some water. And then also, by the third candle that we entered on, the price was well above the highest point that we could track within that zone, which was the start of this bullish candle right here. So that's when we entered, when that bullish candle opened a little bit after it opened, because it was completely out of the zone. There was a lot of orders within the order book that were for bids, and there was not a lot of asks. And overall, the market did look pretty strong, and we could really, really limit our risk because the recent low was just right here, which for us is a great situation because putting our stop loss at just below the recent low, we have a really good risk-reward situation on our hands, and we made a move to the upside. Now, like we said before, we are going to not try to be too aggressive with managing our risk and moving a stop loss to break even right away, but I think what we will do is leave it until we potentially find some level of a support, maybe somewhere around there. I don't exactly know, but I want to see the price react to some level around maybe the $77-ish range, and then we'll see if we can have a nice clear support that we can put our stop loss below. So that's the overall analysis for Litecoin. Not really much more to do. Adam looked good. I was looking to enter this, but we were already entered on so many alts that we weren't really going to I personally didn't want that much exposure. I guess it makes sense to just like post. Well, within previous videos, we actually talk about this exact situation. So if you wanted to watch the whole thing, you would have definitely been able to understand the reasons why we were looking to long at this point. So we had a structural low, or a structural high, sorry, that was very well respected. We know that there's a lot of sellers at this point right here. So when the fact that we broke it makes the structure from a downtrend making lower highs and lower lows to then a consolidation, not being able to break a recent high and holding a low in a sideways trend, and then you start the phase of moving towards the upside. And what are you looking for here? You're looking for higher highs and higher lows. You're looking for breaking of major key levels of resistance, and that's exactly what we had on Cosmos. A lot of the alts obviously follow this pattern as well, so we are long many alts, but that was an opportunity that I did not take. But it's always great to look at how the other patterns played out or are playing out while you are still in other trades. So good situation. If we do get a nice pullback validating this previous level as a new level of support, that's a pretty good situation. So what I will do is, because we are seeing these strong pushes of volume in the altcoin market, at this point, I think I'll be more dynamic with take profits. And basically what that means is I'm not going to take hard take profits, meaning I'm not going to place orders in the market that will automatically take me out if the price hits that certain level. Instead, I will have areas of supply in mind that I will first see how the price reacts to, because if there is a surge in buy volume, if the price just doesn't respect resistances and it's just absolutely booming up, like for example Ethereum had a massive boom, Bitcoin had a pretty strong boom from 7,800. There are times in the market where it just makes sense to have dynamic take profits. I'm not saying all of them should be dynamic take profits. I think you should have some hard take profits within your trade plan, but we are going to kind of implement the dynamic take profits more often within our trade plans, which you will see within the trades that we're going to be taking. And with that said, that also means that this will free up risk with us gaining exposure to long sets. For example, let's say we're in BTC and we're in a long, and let's just say this, I don't know, let's just say we're in Cosmos right now, and we take a long here and we move our stop loss, and the price goes like here and it goes up and it's doing really well, and we move our stop loss now to break even. Well, now we don't have any risk on the table, and if we move our stop loss up higher, well then we're in profit and we guaranteed money no matter what happens in that trade. So when you get to a point of having the stop loss get to break even, well then you can you're freeing up risk against your total portfolio to trade using different pairs, which is great, because at a certain point, if there's a really strong bullish market, like the bull market we had in the start of 2016, really started in 20 later half of 2016, and then 2017 was just insane. But if we're having something like that, when there is a surge of buy volume coming in, when you know that there's a tremendous amount of bullish pressure, you can have many positions opened at once and just raise trailing stop losses, and that is a great way to gain exposure. And what you can do is sell portions of your profit in the positions you're already in to open alternate positions, and then when they're going profit, then you move the stop loss to break even. You take the position out of what you put in, and you just accumulate positions with zero risk on the table. And that is when these videos will get very interesting and very important and vital, because I won't be able to explain every single position I'm in, being able to type it out going from the daily or weekly all the way down to the hour chart, because obviously that would be a tremendous amount of typing, and the ability to timestamp each pair. If you're in one pair, if you're in a couple pairs, if you're in every pair, you can just run through them really quickly. And that's how we will be using the YouTube lives from, I guess, this point onwards, but especially it will be useful when we have that tipping point where the confidence in buyers are just overtaking the confidence from the sellers, and we see that FOMO, we see that massive hype start to come into the market again. So it'll be very useful. I know that it may sound a little bit bland right now, but just wait in 2017 when the market really starts hyping up. It can't say it's easy, but just long dips holding descending trend lines, and yeah, it's a pretty sweet time. Let's just say that. So going on to different pairs, we talked about Atom. We're not really going to get into these different alts because we're not really in them, because we're in different alts. So we'll just kind of focus on the alts that we're currently in. So Ethereum is our next one that we're going to talk about. We entered this, when we entered that? On February 20th. Or sorry, 17th. It's the 2020. So that doesn't make sense because today is the 18th. So we entered it yesterday, and we are really coming close to these highs here where we hit the highs. We haven't hit our take profit yet, but we're going to remain very patient. One thing to note on the 1 hour chart before we go to the larger time frames, just look at the volume accumulation within the consolidation. Yes, I know we did get a lot of pullback, which did bring in a lot of sell pressure within the market. A lot of people taking profits after the monstrous move that we've had. That makes sense. But we do see the buyers come right back in, seeing more volume than we had previously before the dump, seeing the amount of volume we had to kind of initiate that really strong run-up we had. And to me, it just looks like a great overall chart that we are having right now with Ethereum. So let's take this off, and let's just kind of discuss what we're able to see within the price action. Because just talking about right here, look at those wicks. Look how strong the buy volume is, picking it right back up, bringing it really close to the open on the previous one, and then it went above the open in the next bullish candle, and then the current bullish candle is pretty strong. We still do have around 2 hours and 40 minutes until this daily candle closes, but it's looking pretty good for the most part. Now getting back into the actual bullish momentum. So obviously we've been making higher highs and higher lows. We are testing that high here, and that's going to be the resistance to beat really, because it's a pretty key resistance within the price action. So looking at this major double bottom on the daily, let's just go over why this is a pretty important zone within the price action. So the first thing that we want to notice is the key level of resistance and support, creating our zone of sensitivity, which is going to be our resistance at this point right here. That's the first thing to notice. And on the macro chart is we do have a pretty key level of resistance at this zone, because we can see that here, and also we can see that right here. Yes, on the daily chart we do see that candle closures are above or are below this area, but on the weekly chart the candle closures are right tight with that zone, and then it's only the wicks that are protruding below the area. So it's a very well respected area on the daily chart, and that's why we have to ensure that we are trying to potentially take some profits at this zone here. I think that's a good idea. But if we are able to break that, that would be a pretty phenomenal move, because then we could be using these highs as resistances, and that would be a pretty significant move for sure. At least the 318 range, that's a very clear, well-respected zone. So let's see if I have that in. 308. I'd say it's a little bit higher, actually, when you look at the larger time frames. So I'm going to put that there, and I might move my stop or my take profit a little bit higher to that point there. But overall, that's the trade that we're taking here. We see a strong move to the upside. We see a nice pullback, and when we get to the 1 hour chart, we'll discuss that nice pullback that we had and why we entered. This was a front runner, meaning that it was breaking resistances and holding supports quicker than a lot of the alts that we saw within the market. So then we entered a feeler position on this one. So we were holding this nice descending zone here, a very well respected zone right here, and then this validated as a potentially dependable zone, and then we got a very nice pullback, validating it as a nice new level of support at our zone of confluence. Was a really great thing to see. And then we still structurally have not made a higher high. This was a previous high. We can see it's a key zone within the chart, very easily identifiable. So we were waiting for the price to break that area and hold it on the 1 hour chart to confirm the market structure from sideways to now going up. So that's what we were looking for, and then that's exactly what we got here. We got the price to push, pull back, and then we got a pretty strong bullish candle, but it did close kind of at the previous resistance, and that's when I opened my trade on Ethereum, and then I put the stop loss just below the previous low, which is going to be our support. And we actually did get pretty close to hitting that support or that stop loss, but we didn't actually hit that stop loss, which is great. And then we got a little bit of consolidation, and then we really started seeing the buy pressure come in kind of really soon after we entered Bitcoin, and then we got a strong move towards the upside. We haven't seen the TP1 get hit, which is right here, but it does look pretty close. And then what we did is we moved our stop loss now to this zone here, which then freed up a lot of risk available for our portfolio to incur in case of a failed trade, because now we don't have to lose any money if this goes south and hits our stop loss, because the stop loss is above our entry point, giving us a completely risk-free trade. So that's Ethereum. Good situation to have for sure. And then this is also another pair that we are in. This is XRP. Let's just discuss the overall structure. It's pretty similar. So the overall alt market situation is pretty similar for a lot of the major ones. We're seeing a descending zone, very similar to what we just saw. We had 4 touches, making it a very dependable zone. We see a nice retest with 2 injections of buy volume coming into the market. But like the previous structure, I wanted to wait until this high was broken. It was rejected right there, so we didn't want to enter. And then we waited until this high formed right here, breaking the previous resistance. We can see it broke the previous resistance with strong buy volume coming in. We see that right here compared to the previous volume. So is there enough for me? There was enough indications that I wanted to enter long on XRP. We're getting a nice little pullback, which I don't mind, validating this previous resistance as a new level of support. We have quite a bit of room on the stop loss because we have kind of limited our risk with the Ethereum trade, which is great. I'm just going to get some water here. And yeah, there's not much more to it. We can go back to the daily and the larger time frames to discuss why we entered this in the first place. Let's zoom back all the way out. So we can see same thing, massive amount of candles with wicks to the downside with very, very strong bullish volume. That's great to see on a daily chart for sure. So then we also have a nice support zone right here, kind of around here. So that we see that's a zone of sensitivity with a support here, resistance. We did break above the zone. It was a candle closure, and then it was a support turning into a resistance at this point right here. And then obviously it's a pretty well respected resistance, support, support, resistance at that zone there. So we know it's a respected area within the chart, so we can depend on it as a potential next level of support because we've broken above it, we're retesting, and now we can move potentially towards the upside. So that for me is enough on the daily chart to give me a picture of what I'm viewing, and I see a push to the upside, and this is a completion of an exhaustion phase or a retest phase, and now we are commencing the next impulse move towards the upside, potentially seeing another higher high. So now that I have the context of the market on the larger time frames, we can then move on to the smaller time frames. Now we usually do look at the weekly, but I look at every single one of these charts every single day. If you want to look at the weekly on every single one of them, take a look back at maybe 1 or 2 videos on the timestamp, and we do go over the weekly and monthly sometimes, but I do pretty well have every single one of these alts not like ingrained in my brain, but I know what's going on, or I know what the price action is doing, our key levels, not by number or by heart, but just looking at the chart real quick, I can definitely assess, okay, I know where we've been, I know where we're going, I know where the key zones are, and that's just with being so active in the markets. So on XRP, we broke above on the 4 hour as well. So a lot of these entries were at the closure of the 4 hour candle closure, which is a significant candle closure. And then also just looking at the recent price action, we can see we definitely broke this little resistance here, definitely well above. And then we do give it room for the price to pull back. If the price is going to pull back, there's a little bit of room there for the price to move. basically enough that it's going to, but if we do see a long wick down, we'll probably get wicked out, but we do have enough that hopefully we don't get multiple of those. So that is the overall trade on XRP. We got a nice little first level take profit here. Pretty solid risk reward parameters we have on here. We could push our risk down a little bit because the risk reward is a little bit too much. I think I might do that right now, actually. Give me one moment, because this is 3.25 and I currently, so I can see why I put it here. This is the recent low, and I put it actually quite a bit lower than the recent low. So actually zooming in, I am going to leave my risk where it currently is sitting. I don't really have a need to change it. I do have a lot of diversity in the bullish move that we are commencing right now. So that is XRP. The reasons why I entered, the overall entry and stop loss. First take profit is here, but like I said before, I'm looking to have a little bit more of a dynamic take profit situation because BTC looks so strong. So we will now go on to BNB. Very similar structure right here. It's actually probably a pretty good opportunity to enter if you're looking for it right here, because this is the pullback. We got 30 minutes left until this candle closes, so we will want to see how much volume that comes in on the hour chart. But looking at the recent volume in the consolidation after the descending trendline breakout, we do see that there's a lot more buy volume overall, other than this one bearish candle. We do see that overall there is more bearish or bullish volume compared to the bearish volume, signaling bearish sentiment and volume distribution. So no real entries on this yet. We are pretty exposed in the market with our trades. Link is a potential. I haven't seen an entry point just yet, but I'd like to, because I like entering Link. It looks very strong. We're on a very strong move to the upside. We have broken the recent all-time high candle closures on the daily chart. We've pulled back, tested those same lows, and retested and validated that we are now on a new level of support. Only thing, we do see a lot of sell pressure within the market on the 1 hour and 4 hour, which I don't love. I'd like to see some more buy pressure compared to sell pressure on in at least one of those charts. So I don't have an entry yet. And also, like we've discussed before, I don't really see any price action pattern that I can lay on here that would actually work. I could do some funky stuff, but it just doesn't make sense for me to try to force something onto a chart. With XRP, I 100% know what's going on. It makes sense. We were in a downtrend, making lower lows and lower highs, structurally speaking. We were in a consolidation phase, and that's a part of the structure. And then we started making a higher high, and then we could be making our higher low, which is not a problem. Same with Ethereum. We had the exact same situation, and even same with Litecoin there. So all the trades that we're currently in have a similar structure, and that's what we're looking for, because then we can kind of have a level of dependability when we're entering and exiting markets. We're not just entering randomly. We have a pretty structured situation we need to find before we even look to enter. It's a criteria that we need. And a lot of things need to line up, but it still needs to be dynamic enough that allows you to actually enter in the first place. Because if you have something that's too specific, that's too out of the blue, that won't really happen often, then obviously you won't really have many opportunities to enter. But if you have something that has too many opportunities to enter, then you just have no idea when to enter, because everything you look at could be an entry. So just something to keep in mind. Looking at the overall market to kind of finish it off, I don't think we're going to go over any other alts. We don't really have anything that we're entering. Matic would be a good one if you do break that descending zone. I'm just going to be looking at it at the 4 hour zone, because hopefully by the time Matic gets to this zone, a lot of these alts will be completely risk free. So then we'll be able to open up the risk to take a couple more entries maybe on Matic. Not really on Neo. I don't really see any other ones. Stellar Lumens actually looks pretty good because it broke that recent resistance and now it's pulling back. But yeah, we'll see how the market goes. I don't want to make too many assumptions or anything. I just want to see how these current trades are going to go. I have stop losses already set. I think what I will do is, once this gets established, I think I've already said it, then I'll move my stop loss to basically break even, so I don't have any risk on the table. Got a little bit of risk on XRP there, and then I got, well, the most risk is actually on XRP, if you're just looking in terms of percentage, but in terms of dollar value, nothing on Ethereum, still a little bit on BTC, except we're going to move it up a little bit more, and then Ethereum is completely gone. XRP is the least ideal for risk, and then we're seeing LTC. If we are able to hold this nice new level of support, that would be great, because then we can move our stop loss almost to break even. I do want to give a little bit of room for the wicks to play there, but then we would be reducing our risk even more, allocating potentially more risk to new trades. So we'll see how it goes. Just looking at the different alts within the market right now, nothing crazy. We don't really see any massive mooning alts at this point in time. A lot of them are just consolidating at key levels of supports, or starting to see key shifts in trend, like the ones we're entering, where you're starting to see those market high structure formations come in, and then we are looking to hold that higher low, holding previous resistance as a new level of support, and ideally we will start to make that uptrend. So BTC overall looks good. We've already talked about why we're looking to still make a move to the upside, so we'll see how the next couple hours and couple days go, but I'm liking my entries so far. We're pretty loaded up for entries, so I don't want to overexpose myself. Even with this many entries, we are always managing risk. We know exactly how much risk we have on the total portfolio at all times, and that is the main thing with risk management. You have to ensure that you know how much you have at risk at any given moment, and you have to manage that, which would mean that you have to set hard stop losses, and you have to basically understand exactly how much money you are losing to the dollar. So if you're disciplined with that, you are halfway there. And that's basically the end of this video. Hope you enjoyed it. If you have any questions, drop them in the chat below. If not, we'll probably make another one of these a little bit later on tonight, because the market is getting a lot more active. We're seeing a lot more movement in the price, which is great for us, because then we can capitalize on it. And also with trade management, it's just way easier for me to go over it in a video and then share it with everyone instead of just typing it out, because I can really go over it in more detail instead of how I would do it in a more written format. So hope you enjoyed the video. I think I'll cut it off here because I don't really see any more comments come in. We're getting a pullback from BTC, which means that a lot of our alts will see a pullback as well. The only alt I am looking at potentially giving a little bit more room to breathe is going to be Litecoin. I know I did put it at the lower than the recent low, which is for me kind of the standard thing that I do, and we do have a pretty strong level of support right there. But if BTC does start to hold there, I'm not wanting to get wicked out and the price going towards my intended direction. Litecoin still has quite a bit of room. I don't really mind where the stop loss for Litecoin is. BTC same as well, but I'd like to see a support hold around the 10K zone. That'd be really nice for BTC. Then I can kind of move my stop losses to reduce my risk on a lot of my trades, and then I'm able to potentially take more trades, giving more exposure to the market without necessarily increasing my risk. So that's analysis. Hope you enjoyed it. Also, if you are new to the YouTube Live, we host a Discord. You can find a link within the comment section below, and that will take you to our community where we host over 1,400 individuals that trade in all types of markets. We try to focus on cryptocurrency markets, but people trade stocks, FX, commodities, all that stuff. It's a very interesting place, and if you are interested in trading any entrepreneurial endeavor, definitely check it out. It's a great place with a good community. So see no questions. So until next time, happy trading, and I hope you guys have a great day.